Hello, this is the second part of my read-through of Chapter 8 on Baha'i Communities up to 1921 from my book, The Baha'i Faith, A Short History. The chapter includes sections on Iran and the Ottoman Empire and Egypt, which we covered in part 1 of these two videos, and now we'll move on to talk about India and Burma, Russian Turkistan and Caucasia, and the West. So, India and Burma. Several Indian Muslims converted to Babism in Iran, but it was not until the Baha'i period that a community of believers was established in what was then British India. A key figure here was the Baha'i teacher Suleiman Khan Tanakabuni, better known as Jamal Effendi, who travelled widely in the subcontinent during the 1870s. A small network of Baha'is came into being in several cities, mostly in northern India. They were largely from the Persian-educated minority. With the newly converted Sayyid Mustafa Rumi, Suleiman Khan then moved to Southeast Asia, where a Baha'i community was established amongst the Muslims of Burma. Further progress in India occurred during Abdul Baha's ministry, with the conversion of a number of both immigrant Iranian Zoroastrians and native Parsis in Bombay, and of a small circle of highly educated Indians in other cities, including a high-caste Hindu and a Sikh, both of whom became prominent in work for the further expansion of the faith. There were some moves towards administrative development, including the formation of a National Teaching Council in 1911, and publishing work was undertaken. But the Indian Baha'is remained strongly elitist in their approach, with much emphasis being placed on public lectures. Their numbers remained small. Of greater immediate significance was the development of Baha'i communities in the Russian territories bordering Iran. The first of these was Russian Azerbaijan, where existing Babi groups were converted from the 1860s onwards. There was subsequent expansion to other parts of the Caucasus. In Turkistan, the most important of the Baha'i communities was at Ashgabat, the capital of the newly established province of Transcaspia. Baha'is were among the immigrants from Iran to the new city, and by 1889 they numbered about 400, including many builders and merchants. Intent on importing the pattern of Iranian persecutions, immigrant Shi'i activists then plotted a general attack on the Ashgabat Baha'is. In the event, only one man was murdered, and to the astonishment of the Shi'is, the murderers were arrested by the Russian authorities and later tried. An initial sentence of death was later commuted to one of life imprisonment following intercession by the Baha'is. This was a major turning point for the Baha'is. For the first time in their history, their persecutors had been apprehended and punished. The Russian territories were henceforth to be seen as an attractive refuge, as well as an area of economic opportunity, and Baha'i immigration surged. By 1917, the Baha'i community comprised about 4,000 people. Freed from their former restraints, the Baha'is openly established a wide range of Baha'i institutions, including a public bath, a traveller's hospice, a dispensary and hospital, schools, and a printing press. Of greatest public note was an imposing Baha'i temple, which was subsequently completed by 1907. This structure was the first Baha'i house of worship in the world. A group of prominent Baha'i merchants and former clerics initially provided the Ashgabat community with leadership, but in 1895-6 they were replaced by an elected council, also possibly the first in the world. This in turn appointed committees to oversee the various aspects of Baha'i community life. Baha'i groups were also established in several other parts of the Russian Empire, including Samarkand and Moscow, but the number of Baha'is in these places remained small. There were a few Russian converts, but generally there was no attempt to convert ethnic Russians, as this would have been illegal. Following the Russian revolutions of 1917, there was a great increase in Baha'i activity in the Russian territories, including the conversion of a number of ethnic Russians. This period came to an end in the mid-1920s as the new Soviet regime established its authority and implemented policies against organized religions. Now let's move on to the West. The establishment of Baha'i communities in the West marked a major and decisive transition in Baha'i history. Hitherto, despite the conversion of a small number of non-Muslims in the Middle East, the Baha'i Faith had essentially remained a phenomenon within Islam. Iranian Jews and Zoroastrians and Levantine Christians still operated within an Islamic cultural environment and shared many of its values. With the conversion of Baha'is in the West, the faith entered a new cultural milieu. Although in total numbers the Western Baha'is were relatively few, their inclusion in the faith had far-reaching consequences. For the first time, the Baha'i Faith became a genuinely international movement, and its cultural adaptability was vividly demonstrated. Moreover, despite their small numbers, the Western Baha'is enjoyed a freedom and access to resources that enabled them to play a vital role in the further expansion of the faith. The initial breakthrough occurred in the United States, where a small Baha'i group was established in Chicago in 1894. The Chicago group then expanded rapidly, while a large number of smaller groups soon developed elsewhere in the USA and also in Canada and in Paris and London, so that by 1900 there were probably well over 1,500 Western Baha'is. The initial growth centered on the activities of one Baha'i teacher, Ibrahim George Khairullah, himself a recent convert of Syrian Christian background, who was able to express the Baha'i teachings in a way that appealed to Western Christians. Thereafter, further expansion reflected the geographical mobility of American society. As it first developed, the fledgling American community was somewhat heterodox in Baha'i terms. Khairullah's interpretation of the Baha'i faith was idiosyncratic, and many of the early Baha'is were drawn from the cultic fringe of small groups of religious seekers then beginning to flourish. Relating the Baha'i faith to an esoteric version of the Christian Adventist tradition, Khairullah also distanced it from its Islamic roots. These misconceptions were gradually eradicated from 1900 onwards with the arrival of a series of more knowledgeable Oriental Baha'i teachers, including Abul Fazl. At the same time, Khairullah broke with Abdul Baha and transferred his allegiance to Muhammad Ali. A small number of Americans followed his example, calling themselves Baha'is, but most Baha'is remained loyal to Abdul Baha. After 1900, the North American Baha'i community grew very slowly until the impetus of Abdul Baha's visit, that's from April to December 1912. It revealed a considerable, that is the community revealed a considerable internal dynamism, however, with the development of a substantial body of Baha'i literature, including English language translations of writings by Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha, accounts of pilgrimage visits to Abdul Baha by American Baha'is, and introductory pamphlets and books on the faith written for a Christian readership. A project to plan for the construction of a Baha'i house of worship near Chicago was also begun, with the establishment of an annual National Delegate Convention of American Baha'is, the Baha'i Temple Unity, in 1909. With Abdul Baha's encouragement, a variety of local Baha'i councils also came into being. American Baha'is were also extremely active internationally. A number were able to make the lengthy journey to visit Abdul Baha in the Holy Land. Others visited the Baha'is in the Middle East, India, and Central Asia, including some who settled in Iran to help with medical and educational work among Baha'is. Yet others became missionary teachers, establishing the faith in Hawaii in 1901, Germany from 1905, Japan from 1914, Australia 1920, and Brazil 1921. Others made extensive tours to teach the faith in Latin America, the Yukon, and Southern Africa. Growth outside the United States was slight. Active Baha'i groups formed in France, England, and Germany, but their numbers remained small, despite Abdu'l-Baha twice visiting Europe. Several of the European Baha'is were able to make major contributions to the development of the faith, notably in terms of its literature, including works that are still among the most widely used introductory books on the Baha'i Faith in French and English: Essays sur le Bahaïsme by Hippolyte Dreyfus and Baha'u'llah and the New Era by John Esselmont. So, many thanks for listening, and particular thanks to my patrons, Ian Palin and Tricia Williams. If you like these videos, you're welcome to subscribe to my channel. I'll try to answer any questions you may have about the video in Patreon or maybe in a future video. Those who want to support the development of the channel can do so through Patreon or PayPal. I'll give details below the video. You're also very welcome to click the like button. So, have a good day.